Thanks for visiting the patient and the weather. Today I'm meteorologist Al Peterlin. I'd like to about the weather health stresses for July 11, 2026. We keep additional graphics at tpatw.com. We also maintain a storefront on Amazon. And just to be sure, this is a weather report. Looking at the surface map for Saturday, you can see we have really one major front extending all the way from northern Arizona, across northern New Mexico to the Oklahoma and Texas Panhandle, across to Memphis, up to Louisville, then back up to Pittsburgh and down to D.C. Lots of unsettled weather ahead and along that front, probably weather and health stresses. And note that the rain swath extends almost all the way across the southeast. Looking at our vitality index, which is an individual measure of those elements that might have some difficulties, and you can see we're highlighting a little bit of activity here in eastern New Mexico, eastern Colorado to eastern Wyoming. Little bit something going on here from the Panhandle, Texas and Oklahoma, all the way up into Kansas City, and then just unsettled weather up here from the plains all the way to the Appalachians. Note that it's a very nice opening here on the east side of the Appalachians, maybe some good weather for a change, although of course Florida remains with lots of stresses. Looking at pressure change, note that we have some rising pressure here in northeastern New Mexico, a little bit of rising pressure across the Texas and Oklahoma Panhandle, another area of rising pressure right about the Missouri boot heel, and then as we pick up, we can see that we have rising pressure from Michigan, northern Ohio, across northern Pennsylvania, almost all of New York State, New Jersey, and all of New England, and very significantly rising pressure here up in the easternmost portions of Canada. Temperature changes will be rather stable in the east, but that's because it'll be just a touch cooler with extensive cloud cover, and we're starting to build temperatures now in the Intermountain West and up in the northern plains. That will be quite significant, as it could be the developing of a short-term heat wave. Heat wave will be more significant there in the Mountain West and the north because the individuals there are not acclimated to the temperatures that we'll be seeing. Looking at dew point temperature change, you can see that we've got some rising dew points here right through Southern California over into northeastern New Mexico and the Texas Panhandle. Note that we have the vapor pressure showing a little more interesting as we have rising vapor pressure here across the southwest all the way into the central plains. But note up here in the northeast from Michigan across to Pennsylvania, falling dew points, and so that's a little bit more reasonable or feeling good weather up there in the northeast. Looking at the lifted index or the instability, you can see we still have instability up to plains and through much of the Ohio and the Mississippi Valley. Note extensive instability here still in Florida, but notice that it is very nice and calming down here in the middle Atlantic states from the Carolinas all the way up through southern Pennsylvania. Looking at the change in oxygen availability, note migraine stresses in Vancouver and then British Columbia into Washington State. Little bit of migraine stresses here in central to southeastern Arizona. Rather significant area of migraine stress, eastern New Mexico, and the Texas and Oklahoma Panhandle, actually even into north central Oklahoma. Modest migraine stresses really from Dallas all the way down to the eastern south central portions, maybe even Austin, Waco. Note that we have a significant area of migraine stresses starting here in the Missouri boot heel, extending across Tennessee, Kentucky, up into the Ohio Valley, across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and all of New England. Florida is actually a little bit different story. Migraine stresses across the Florida Panhandle, and then migraine stresses here again across the southeastern portions of the state. Asthma and arthritis risk are relatively minor. Here we have a asthma and arthritis risk in northeastern Colorado into eastern Wyoming. Not sure really what this is in southwestern New Mexico, but it does look like a little bit of asthma and arthritis stresses. We do have some asthma and arthritis stresses here about Tampa, and interesting, some asthma and arthritis stresses here across the island of Cuba. Thanks for visiting The Patient and the Weather. Your comments are appreciated, and if you hurt, tell us where you're located.